Action SA has dissolved its KZN leadership with immediate effect. A decision to do away with the provincial structure was taken by the party's top executives yesterday. The party alleges that the outgoing structure has been infiltrated by some individuals who have the aim of weakening it. For more on what's taking place and what the way forward looks like, let's bring in the organization's National Chairperson, Michael Beaumont, who joins us via our video link this morning. Michael, it's great to have you on the program, albeit what's taking place seemingly in Action SA. Let me begin here. Is this another instance of a small political party in South Africa imploding?
Well, I think firstly, Ayanda, we always like to challenge the idea that Action SA is a small political party. We contested 6 municipalities out of 278 and came 6th in the country. And I think the idea that a handful of individuals being removed from our organization is anything other than an indication of our implosion. I think the thing that kills emerging political parties is when they have these kind of challenges within their ranks and they don't deal with them decisively. But when you have an organization that is proving successful to challenge the ANC in their electoral stomping grounds, there is a strong effort to infiltrate and destabilize the organization without any question.
Interesting, those sentiments, especially when you go through at least the 3 resignations that I have from some of the officials in KwaZulu-Natal. Part of what they're saying is that Action SA doesn't operate very differently from the ANC when it comes to things like cadre deployment. But your response to that is that I presume these are the individuals who've been infiltrated to weaken some structures in that province. What does that say about your vetting processes?
Definitely, and I think there's a lot for us to take on board. We're not an organization that has a problem with introspection. And even at last night's Senate, where the decision was taken to dissolve the structure, there was a substantial discussion about that particular issue and how we as an organization need to strengthen that particular part of our operations. In
your own statement, you say, part of what triggered these series of events or resignations is a conversation that apparently took place between a PEC member of Action SA and someone within the ANC about protecting the ANC's interests in exchange for money, etc., etc. With the benefit of hindsight, or let me ask the question this way, did you make that discussion public? If not, why not?
Well, it was made public in as much as Action SA underwent a disciplinary procedure, and 24 hours later, after the discovery of that recording, the individual was dismissed and the dismissal was communicated. The recording itself hasn't been shared, but there's no problem in that regard. I think our biggest thing at this point is what this was the discovery that there was a group of individuals within the PEC who saw fit to try and negotiate their own financial benefit to protect the ANC. And it looks like a lot of these challenges that had to come to a head last night arose from that particular instance.
But do you see where I'm going with this? Raising this now and making it public now only looks like a reaction to these mass resignations.
Well, I suppose the point is when the individual was dismissed, it has been communicated. It wasn't communicated for the first time yesterday evening. It has been in the public domain, and we were quite open about it as an organization.
Yeah. It's difficult not to look at this on the back of what Makosi Khoza said on her way out. That, let's call it separation, wasn't the smoothest either. There was a few swipes taken against Herman Mashaba and the organization itself. How concerned are you about Action SA and KZN?
Look, there's definitely concerns. We have to bring in stable leadership. But the one thing that's really important to point out at this stage, Ayanda, is that there's a hell of a lot of good people in Action SA on the ground who are growing our structures across the geography of KZN. KZN is one of our most rapidly growing structures or provinces in South Africa. And at this time, our biggest priority must be to bring in the stable leadership in which those members and volunteers can thrive. That's got to be our priority.
Yeah. I want to just hone into the detail of some of what was alleged in some of these resignation letters. And I hate to say this, but we really are spoiled for choice about where to start. So Mohammed Khan, for instance, who's resigned from the Mgungundlovu region, speaks about the organization at a national level not even paying a cent for mobilization of party members on the ground, as it were, and then wanting to come back and make decisions about how those structures should be run. What's your response to that?
I think the first response, Ayanda, is that there's a difference between what people are saying in their letters and what their real intention is. And I think let's be clear about that. The real intention is to damage Action SA, and that is what is contained in those letters. As to the real truth of their departure, will become known in the coming days when the political agenda is very clear. But in terms of that particular allegation, Action SA raised a great deal of money to fund the 2021 local government election. And of course, financials are always a challenge. And many individuals have reached into their own pockets to help fund our organization. But that isn't a dynamic that is unique to his particular area or KwaZulu-Natal for that matter.
So you do concede that even in this instance, there were people who are part of the organization who had to use their own money for party purposes?
Of course, and I don't think that's a dynamic that is unique to Action SA. It's a dynamic that exists across the political landscape, especially for a new emerging political party that doesn't have the access to the public funding that those represented in Parliament have.
Was this an expectation that they do this?
No, of course not. You can't place an expectation like that upon people.
Yeah.
I think in many ways Action SA's growth has been organic, and there's a lot of people who, when we were just contesting the 6 municipalities in 2021, said, we want to do what we can to make sure that Action SA is strong in this area. And they did so of their own volition.
All right. Monica Mgaga is another person who's resigned. She was with the Provincial Women's Forum for Action SA. Part of what she says, in fact, in just the opening remarks of her letter, is that there's a woman who was abused and traumatized, and nothing was done about that. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know that there was a complaint by one of our female members within KwaZulu-Natal, but the idea that nothing was done about that was entirely false. There is currently a matter that is before the disciplinary committee of the party. It's at an advanced stage. It is a matter that we have openly communicated. But once again, the claim that nothing's been done about it is a deliberate effort to try and colour the party in a very particular way, when the truth is that Action SA has acted both responsively and very quickly to that issue as a responsible organisation.
Yeah. One more sentiment that's reflected from one of those letters, Busisiwe Ntshingila, who was the chair of eThekwini, by the way, saying that there are a few self-obsessed politicians who simply participate in order to gain power, money and fame with little regard to ordinary South Africans. And part of what was said here is that even when things like the floods were taking place, it seems like there was no response from Action SA. I imagine you'd want to also respond to that.
I think the irony is that the individuals who are resigning like this are the ones who appear to want power, finances and fame. This is the nature of the approach that they're taking. Because Action SA was very much on the ground throughout the floods. Herman Mashaba himself was here as part of the clean-up operation. So that particular allegation just features once again as somebody who's trying to level allegations against the party to damage its image, and it demonstrates their true intentions aren't about South Africa or this organization.
You know, part of the dissolution of the PEC from Action SA, you say, is to try clean up the image of the organization. But what if I told you perhaps some might think the damage is already done?
Well, there's no doubt what we've gone through is an unfortunate thing. I don't think anyone's going to come here and tell you otherwise. But as an organization, we must face the choice. Do we want to be proactive and decisive, or do we want to continue in a situation which is proving to be damaging to our project in 2024? And I think that is the thing that kills many emerging political parties when they are indecisive. We have been decisive, we've dealt with the issue, and we will undergo a period of rebuilding in our provincial structures in KwaZulu-Natal, that within a few months' time we will be operating at full steam once again, and we will not be in a position where this will be the continued kind of lay of the land for Action SA.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure there are lessons learned here. I mean, you'd hate to be back here just moments before the 2024 elections. How are you going about the reconstituting of these bodies in a context where I'm sure there are constituencies who now, let's face it, are leaderless?
Yeah, sure. Although I do want to stress there's a hell of a lot of good people on the ground throughout KwaZulu-Natal, Yanda, who continue to do good work. And I mean, I'm literally watching today as branches are being launched in KwaZulu-Natal. So those things don't stop. I think the point, though, is that as a Senate, there is an introspection that was discussed yesterday evening that needs to take place, particularly as it relates to our vetting procedures. There's no question that we are an organization where there's an appetite to infiltrate our organization and a great deal of people trying to do it. And I think our vetting procedures is something that we need to look at and become a hell of a lot stronger at going forward. But also our priority right now is to get strong, stable leadership. And I know that Herman Mashaba has committed that by October that will be in place in KwaZulu-Natal.
A great task lies ahead. Michael Beaumont, thanks very much indeed for your time. Really do appreciate it. And all the best, I guess. Michael Beaumont is the National Chairperson of Action SA.